Jumai, there's a question related. What are the most common reasons for IND rejection related to CMC, and how can you mitigate those through the sponsor CDMO relationship?
Yeah, I think, upon evaluation of some of the top issues that have come up, it does look like most of it tends to center around documentation
Okay.
and microbiological controls. And just, sometimes it's even facility design. And these are things that ideally in the initiation of a sponsor CDMO relationship should have been reviewed and addressed. So say, for example, if I have a client or if I had a client who came on board right at the beginning of a BD conversation, some of the things that you talk about is what do you need, what information is required, what phase are you entering into, and what phase what phase does this product need to go or to spread across, because sometimes some sponsors want to do a single batch and be able to use it across multiple phases, and therefore you're going to have issues
Mm-hmm.
if the
Mm-hmm.
quality system is not designed for that, or you've not risk assessed that. And so I would say microbiological controls, those are some of the problems that you're going to see. You're also going to see problems around, again, just your facility design, basic things like flow that really impacts that microbiological control, whether people have documented things appropriately. And when it comes to INDs, you're still at that beginning where there is agility and there is ability to make changes. And so if the documentation process does not allow that level of change and introduction of variability that happens at the early phases of production and early phases of trials to happen, then you're going to get stuck, like Bikash said, in that time loop of just waiting for a quality team to be ready or to be able to release things. So I think those would be the key pieces. And I think in terms of the
Mm-hmm.
sponsor CDMO relationship, how to address that is just upfront clarity. You have maybe 3 key documents that need to be put in place when you're starting a relationship with a CDMO, especially when you're around that GMP phase. You have your master service agreement, you have your quality agreement, and then you have your statement of work. And I think classically they tend to go into separate silos in how they are used or prepared, and that's usually the challenge. Is like Bikash said, you're not providing roles and responsibilities. Who owns what, where, when? How would we be informed? How would we pursue that? What level of detail does the sponsor need to get? So if you have a small sponsor that does not have a very strong capability to review every deviation that happened in their production batch, then it means they're going to take on responsibilities in their filings for the actions of the CDMO. So you want to understand that we don't have that internal capability. Therefore, you want to pick a CDMO that has a very strong quality system that you can really know that your risk is mitigated through that. But you also know that those 3 documents are legally binding, and therefore you've built your risk into that as well. But ultimately, to the FDA, to Health Canada, to the EMA, you are responsible as a sponsor for all the things that happen in your batch and for your batch. So I think in the relationship, it's making sure the documentations are clear on who is responsible for what, knowing ultimately that the sponsor bears a significant portion of the risk when it comes to the regulatory front, whereas the CDMO can absorb that risk for you in the legal front. And so knowing the delineation of those responsibilities and ownerships, but also just having a very robust team at the table at the beginning, whether internally placed or using consultants or using other organizations that can really help you right up front to see the gaps that might exist in a CDMO and commit to review those gaps and address those gaps for you. That would be the way that I think about that I think about it is documentation, trust, relationship, openness, audit, and
Mhm.
having a very strong RASI around, am I responsible? Am I consulted? What changes are you going to make? And make sure that I'm informed. And what time frame do I want that RASI piece to come into play every time? I don't know
Mhm.
if Bikash has additional pieces to add to that.
No, I think that's really spot on. If you think about INDs, INDs don't typically get rejected because of CMC, right? And so it's typically clinical because the purpose of an IND is to put the drug into a human being, right? And so they're going to look at safety. If you're looking at a novel excipient or something in your process, there's safety considerations associated with that. Have the analytical methods been tech transferred to your CDMO? And are they comfortable, can demonstrate they can do that? If not, then that could be a problem. If the specs aren't in place with your CDMO, then that could be a problem. Um, have you put a TPP in place so that you've got a basic definition of what this product is supposed to do so the agency can understand what the CDMO's potential culpability and responsibility would be in terms of execution. So these are the things that you can make sure are well defined and discuss with the CDMO so that they can execute.